You're watching News here on the Rise News. Now, the race for the 10th National Assembly, especially that of the Senate, is beginning to look like a two-horse race between Senator Akpabio, a former governor of Akwa State, and Senator-elect Abdulaziz Yari, a former governor of Zamfara State. Now, joining us from our Abuja studio to discuss the political intrigues and the build-up ahead of the 10th National Assembly inauguration on Tuesday, as well as to look at the subsidy removal and his legacy in Ebonyi State, we have Senator-elect on the platform of the All Progressive Congress, Dave Umahi, a former governor of Ebonyi State. I want to say thank you very much for joining us here on Newsday.
Aaron, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. And thanks to our viewers.
All right, Senator-elect, we want to find out from you as it stands right now. We know it's looking like a two-horse race. I want to find out from you, where do you think the pendulum will swing? Is it with Senator-elect Yari, or do you think former Governor Akpabio will become Senate President?
Thank you very much. I am the chairman of Akpabio Barawo Jibrin campaign organization. Senator Lynn Dume is the Director General. As I see today, and of course, let me say as at yesterday, before His Excellency Mr. President spoke to all of us, all the senators-elect and all the House members-elect, we had 75 members, senators-elect. We are very confident that in this project of Akpabio Barawo ticket, and that is the minimum we expect to get in terms of votes on 13th of June. And so I see a very bright future for this ticket.
Duly noted. But I'm just wondering how you're preparing, because we understand that the PDP is making a move to back Yari's faction and create an upset, saying that the opposition parties, you know, they'll essentially maximize their numbers. And when you pair this with the fact that 3 senators-elect, that's Abdulaziz, Yari, Jimo Ibrahim, and Elisha Abo, have called for a counter meeting, allegedly slated for today, probably in the evening. Looking at all this that's going on in the background, how ready are you to ensure that your pick emerges Senate President?
Well, in the first place, you know, I hate to talk about, you know, personalities, but in this context, we can't avoid it. Yari is my very good friend. You know, Governor Yari, we work very closely together in the Governors Forum, and he remains my very good friend. And the fact remains that I looked through the amended Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I went through it, and I discovered that the Constitution, as amended, recognizes two things. One is that 2/3 of senators-elect, you know, shall, you know, constitute the minimum requirement for the assembly to be inaugurated. That's one. Two, the Constitution also, as amended, recognizes the rules of both the Senate and the House of Rep. And so as it stands now, yes, Yari was a member of the House of Rep, but constitutionally, and going by the Senate rules, I don't believe that Yari has the constitutional requirement to stand that election. We're not bothered about that. We are bothered about the fact that we went through a very tough election by the reason of, you know, the Muslim ticket. And yes, religion should not be something to be, you know, brought to bear in our, you know, national politics. But it has come to be, and we have to work very hard, you know, to do away with it. But before doing that, you have to repair the situation. And that's why, in the wisdom of APC leadership and Mr. President, he said, look, let us allow a Christian Senate President, the number 3 person, to be a Christian. And this is very logical and it will also help to stabilize the nation. So I think that we should begin to put the interests of the nation first before, other considerations.
But just so we're clear, what do you make of the PDP? What I asked you earlier about, them looking to back Yari to basically ensure that, they maximize their numbers and you don't get your pick.
I'm not in PDP, but I can assure you that over 70% of PDP senators-elect are working with us. This is a fact. For example, the G5 governors met with Mr. President yesterday and assured Mr. President of the commitment of their senators working with us. And of course, their senators are working with us. And so the PDP could do their meetings, but the most important thing is that a lot of PDP senators-elect, have decided to put the interests of the nation first before talking about personal interest. So that is how it stands.
All right, I would like to find out from you, Senator-elect Umahi. A coalition for parliamentary democracy and some of its members have come together and asked Senator Akpabio to shelve his ambition that the power as regards the 10th National Assembly should be based on competence and performance as against zoning. And also, like you said, the predilective of probably choosing a Christian Senate president as against confidence that Senator Yari has all it takes as against what Akpabio actually has to bring to the table.
Well, for me, this question shouldn't have been. Because when we talk about performance, we talk about all the people that are contesting. Good enough, we have two governors that are said to be contesting. But for me, we have a governor that's said to be contesting, and that is Akpabio. So if we talk about performance, and even, without considering that there are two people contesting, you can put their performances where they were in their offices, side by side, and you can do the evaluation by yourself. It is not by mistake or chance that Akpabio is called, an uncommon performer. You go to Akwa Ibom, you see all that he did. And it was a national figure. It was a unifier. You put all these things together, you find out who is most qualified, even if we put aside the perception of the society. And then you find out who is most qualified. And you talk about the character of, his deputy in making, Barau, my good friend. And then you find out that this ticket is a stabilizing ticket. It's an assurance ticket, and it's a ticket that will unify the country, and they remove the perception of, religion, so that we can cure the issue of the president is a Muslim, the vice president is a Muslim, and then the speaker a Muslim, to be, and then you want the Senate president to be a Muslim, and that is very, very, very dangerous. It's unfortunate that, we are talking about religion instead of talking about things that will be uniting the country. But you can't do away with the perception of the society. We have to cure the perception of the society. And anybody who stood the election, especially in the southern part of this country, and of course in most part of, the north, even the PDP, they came heavily against a Muslim ticket. So why are they now insisting, remnants of them, insisting on having also a Senate president from the Muslim faith? It means they are not honest. And I think that as leaders in this country, we should begin to speak, truth to our followers. We begin to put the interests of this country first. I learned what an American lawmaker says, say we are paid to push, but constructively, but not just, an aimless opposition as a witness. So you attacked a Muslim ticket, and God brought us on board because it's the will of God, because God has seen the character, has seen the competence, has seen the content of Mr. President Asiwaju. And in spite of all the obstacles and the hiccups, God brought him to be. And so you now want to go the same path that you are condemned us. There's no honesty in it.
Noted, Senator-elect. Now, we did have Dr. Hakeem Ahmed yesterday, and he was not thrilled with the zoning formula speaking on behalf of the Northern Elders Forum, and said that the advice would be that the executive stays away, in his words, does not encroach on the sovereignty of the legislature in this case, and that there should be a level playing field. And when we asked him about what the reaction would be, he just basically said that they would live with it and that the president will have to deal with the consequences of his actions. So for those that are not thrilled with this formula, what methods are you seeking to, appease them to make sure that everyone is relatively content with the outcome?
We have to find out, in the first place, we understand that leadership is of God. We understand that God definitely brought President Tinubu and Vice President Shetima, to heal the nation and unify the country. And I don't know the consequences that Mr. President Tinubu has to, live with in terms of his actions. His actions has been very wonderful. And he has proven that he understood every aspect of this country. And so he's trying to unify the country. He's trying to bring the country together. And so I want to commend him very highly, and the party APC, the leadership, that said, look, for the interest of this country, let's put our country ahead of, the interest of each and every one of us. And that's why they made that zoning. And there is no action that you don't have reaction. There is nothing that anybody would have done that there won't be consequences in terms of people's reaction. So I think that Mr. President and the leadership of the party, and of course all those who love this country, have queued behind Senator Akpabio Barau ticket. And I think this is what is going to enhance the confidence of the unity of this country.
All right, let's move away from the 10th National Assembly and talk about more German issues actually going on right now. Of course, Nigerians have been groaning under the pain of the removal of the fuel subsidy and the instability we've actually seen in the oil sector. But some few hours ago, the Forum of Commissioners for Finances here in Nigeria in the valedictory meeting actually met and made a massive recommendation to ensure that we begin to see the dividends of the removal of fuel subsidy. And they've actually opined and said that all monies from the removal of subsidy should be put to a federation account so that it can be properly monitored. Talk to us about this. Do you buy into this, and do you see this as a way of probably checkmating some of these excesses that we've seen over the past when it talks about fuel subsidy removal?
Very beautiful idea, but you have to ask yourself, which money? We've been told by an MPC that they want subsidizing, that they want borrowing to put in the subsidy fraud program. I call it, fuel subsidy fraud program. I was among the 6 governors, that we were interfacing with an MPC, with CBN, Ministry of Finance, and few other stakeholders of the federal government on this issue of subsidy. We ran through it for 6 months, and we, had all the facts on the table, and yet nothing happened. So I want to commend President Asiwaju for his courage and for putting the interests of the entire country at heart. We've been buying fuel, for our neighboring countries, and that is the issue. And this issue of fraud subsidy impacted very seriously, negatively on our currency. And so there may be some, hardship, but more money is going to be brought to the cover because NMPs will begin to put money. When we were governor, I think in the past 4 years we were there, NMPC did not bring any money to the federation account. And so they continue to say, look, we are the ones subsidizing. We are the one borrowing to subsidize. And so the issue of bringing all the money that are putting into subsidy into a dedicated account, for me, it doesn't arise. But I think what Nigerians should do is to trust a man of courage. The hardship may just, try for a little while, but his palliatives that he's going to roll out, his policies that, he has enumerated are sure cure, to these pains that you may experience just for a while. And this subsidy removal is good for the common man. It's very good for the common man. Forget about the dollar naira, maybe dancing now, but I can assure you that in the next 2-3 months, you will see stability, in our polity, and things will begin to work as God has designed it by bringing this new crop of leaders to lead our nation at a time that we are very badly challenged. And I think that, Akpabio Barrow ticket will also enhance because these are people with vast experience and a track record of performance. So they will complement what the executive will be doing. And when people talk about, rubber stamp National Assembly, independence of National Assembly, yes, independence of National Assembly is to the extent that the interests of the common man, the interests of Nigerians will not be compromised. But the good thing is that the president was once a senator. The vice president was once a senator. Akpabio was once a senator. And so there will be that, meeting point. There will be that great understanding. And so I expect with the success of Akpabio Barrow ticket to have a very robust relationship between the executive and the legislature. And that's what we need to move this country, forward. And I also think that my good friend, Senator-elect Yari, is going to definitely, yield to the supremacy of the party. He is a member of our party, and is a man I respect. But in this, we must disagree that he has to yield to the supremacy of the party, to the discipline of the party, and to national interest.
Well, noted, Senator-elect. Well, since you disagree with, with Senator Yari, there are also some who don't necessarily agree with you throwing your weight behind Godswill Akpabio, saying that it probably should have gone to Orji Uzor Kalu since he represents the southeast under which Ebonyi falls. So I'm just wondering if you'd like to explain your stance as why you chose to back Senator Godswill Akpabio as opposed to Orji Uzor Kalu in this case.
Well, I was among the first to indicate interest to head the 10th Senate. And my track records are there: party chairman for 5 years, deputy governor for 4 years, and the governor by God's special grace for 8 years. And during this period, we had effective interaction with our legislatures. And so you cannot say that somebody who has gone through all these processes will not have legislative experience and constitutional experience and the executive experience all put in one. But party supremacy, respect for the leadership of the country and the party, they were uppermost in my heart. And so when the party took position, and Mr. President, the leader of the party, also approved that position. For somebody who was the chairman of Southeast Governors Forum, I should not be seen to be opposing the president. I should not be seen to be opposing my party. And don't forget that I left PDP. And my aim of leaving PDP was because of the envisaged injustice. And now in APC, I have to do everything possible first. And my all interest waived to make sure that the Southeast people are brought to play at the center. We've always played at the center. And so personal interest of myself or my good brother and senior colleague, Senator Orji Uzor Kalu, must, take back seat for the interests of Southeast. And of course, at large, the interests of the nation, to be at the front burner. And this is the reason why I support the decision of Mr. President in line with the decision of our party, APC.
All right, you mentioned something about rubber stamp, and that's something that's a tag that has followed the 9th National Assembly. And although several of the senators say they don't care if that is the case, but as it stands right now, we look at the National Assembly in the 21st century, and what they do for the common people, and do they really have the representation for the common man on the street? And a lot of people will say no. As we go into the 10th Assembly, how do you remedy that? Because for several people, their legislators, their senators, their House of Rep members are very distant from the people. They are supposed to bring democracy closer to the people, but it's almost about sharing formula. It's almost about being in juicy Senate committees that will enrich them as against bringing democracy closer to the people. What will the 10th Assembly do to change that notion? Because the rap and the perception of the 9th National Assembly is very, very poor and very gloom.
Aaron, thank you very much. When we finish this interview, I will be asking you, Aaron, to change your name, probably to David, so that more better fortunes will come your ways, Aaron, on a lighter note. But let me tell you something, you know, God is with this administration. The president, Asuwaji Tinubu Ahmed, did something that no other president ever did. He called all the senators-elect and all the members-elect, you know, for all the political parties together yesterday. And what was, you know, in his lips? Unity of the country, putting the country first. And he gave us an example of his invitation, a PDP governor from Plateau State, and they invited him to discuss security. He also invited the governor of Akpabio, PDP again, to discuss about the economy. And so you can see his focus. And what we are preaching in this country is that the moment elections are over, we should go to the business. And that's where the people are not shortchanged. And if there is harmony between the executives and the legislatures, the people are bound to benefit. Look at the 10th Assembly, you know, Senate Assembly. I think over 70 or thereabout of senators are not returning. You know, we may say some of them is due to the Muslim ticket, but what about the PDP? You know, what about the other political parties? And so if anybody is telling you that the harmony between the executive and legislature is not desirable, that person is not, you know, in tune with the legislative, programs and how things work out between the executives and the legislatures. So we desire this harmonious relationship, and that's what Mr. President is preaching. And that's what Akpabio Barau ticket, you know, is preaching. And I think it is important that Nigerians should...
Senator-elect, if you permit me to just come in here, on the principle of checks and balances, that is why people always say that there should be, of course, we expect a consensus at them at some point, but there should be a level of check and balance whereby someone will ask questions, the needed questions, so that what we saw with the Nigerian air will not be brazen, and whereby people will be looking like, or the people will look like probably they have been taken for a ride, whereby glaring things, glaring questions, cogent questions are being asked.
Yeah, you know, Aaron, you know, sometimes, you know, we want to, you know, eat our cake and have it back. Want to make an omelette without striking an egg. You know, people expect, you know, the executives and the legislatures to be quarreling in one hand, and they expect dividends of democracy in the other hand. And so unless the legislatures are disagreeing with the executives, the legislature is no longer a rubber stamp. But look at the states where you have very thorough relationship between the legislatures and the executives. It does not mean that there are no misunderstandings. It does not mean that, you know, questions are not asked. So what we are saying is that where there is one common interest, and the interest is this time around Nigeria, the Nigerian people, the common man. And so the relationship will be all to the interest of the common man.
Noted,
and you see the president has already started it.
Duly noted. We're rounding up with you, and I need to ask you this question, please. Bearing in mind what you've stated about the Muslim ticket, the fact that it might not be the best interest to have the number 3 person being a Muslim, and we also pair that with the fact that this is also the week that we've seen the, you know, video of El Rufai, and you already know the contents of that video. How important is it, now that we're also in the season of appointments, for the president to distance himself from individuals that promote bigotry in any sense and on any level?
Mr. President has not distanced himself from individuals that worked for him. All these people that work for him, they have direct access to Mr. President. There is no time I go to Villa that I don't see these individuals. What appointments have been made? It's just probably the Chief of Staff and the Secretary to Government. The President has it in his heart, the character of the nation, the federal character. And I believe strongly that he's a man that rewards, faithfulness. He's a man that rewards diligence. He's the man that rewards honesty. So be assured that Mr. President is not going to leave out people like El-Rufai and the rest of us that worked very hard for him. You can see his track records. He doesn't betray anybody. And so be very much assured that my good friend El-Rufai is going to, play a major role. I'm not speaking for Mr. President, but I'm speaking, bearing in mind the character of him that I know too well.
I want to say many thanks to you, Senator-elect Dave Umahi from Ebonyi State, for your time here on this day.
Aaron, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
In your own heart, don't you believe that for balancing, don't you believe for cohesion, don't you believe for the interest of the entire country, don't you believe that to, cure the perception of, this thing that has been flying around, by our enemies, the enemies of this country, of the intention to Islamize Nigeria, which is neither here nor there. But should we play into the hands of these enemies? Don't you believe that we should go Akpabio Barau ticket?
Progress and prosperity is all that matters to Nigerians, and good representation and good leadership, regardless of religious predilectives.
No. Regardless of perception, you cannot throw away the perception of the country. You can't throw away the perception of Nigerians. If you have a house that is leaking, before you start doing total renovation, you have to stop the leaking roof first, so that water will stop pouring on those who are inside the house. And that is what I'm saying. And so we have to get to that stage. And I believe that Mr. President Ticket, the president of Nigeria, his leadership is going to cure that perception. But before then, let us repair the roof.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Senator-elect Akpabio. I beg your pardon, Senator-elect David Umahi, for your time here on Newsday.
Well, you can come. All
right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.